This is CBC Vancouver News.
It's been a good few years since we've had this, so it's good to be back, seeing everybody out here.
Welcoming the Year of the Rabbit as Lunar New Year celebrations kick back into high gear.
These businesses didn't anticipate this being 6 years. 6 years without any level of support from this government is astounding.
A cry for help. Business owners along the Broadway SkyTrain extension worry they can't keep their doors open much longer.
Just gotta outsmart them and know where they're gonna be landing.
Pest control, why experts say the province's ban on a deadly poison isn't the solution. Good evening, I'm Lien Yeung. Thanks for joining us. Well, today marks the first day of Lunar New Year for many Asian cultures. Families are celebrating at home and for the first time since the pandemic, in person at major events once again. Thousands jammed the streets of Chinatown for the annual Spring Festival Parade. And while hundreds more took in the sights in Richmond, Yasmin Gandam has a look at some of today's festivities.
Thousands of people line the streets watching traditional lion and dragon dances, excited to be able to celebrate in the parade for the first time since the pandemic. Among those in attendance was Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Pleasure to be here in Vancouver, back for one of the first in-person Chinatown Lunar New Year parades in a long while. It's going to be a nice moment for everyone to gather.
BC Premier David Eby also present at the parade, joined by NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, and Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim, among many others.
You can feel the excitement. Vancouverites and British Columbians are ready to celebrate.
Event organizers ecstatic to bring the parade back to Vancouver's historic Chinatown.
And also more people come back to the Chinatown. We hope we have a prosperity Chinatown this year.
Parade goers also happy to be able to join together with the community and commemorate the annual tradition.
Super excited because I remember when I was little, I always came here with my parents too. So it's exciting to bring my own now.
Very long time ago, very long time for see so many people for the Chinese New Year. That's very exciting.
Really good community minded. It's excellent to see all the spirit down here.
This is the Year of the Rabbit, one of 12 animals in the Chinese zodiac. The rabbit is a symbol of longevity, peace, and prosperity. 2023 is predicted to be a year of hope. The parade is one of many in-person public events returning after a multi-year hiatus. Dozens also gathering at Richmond's Aberdeen Centre for a firecracker show and traditional dances. People of all ages coming together, sending wishes of prosperity and joy.
Go ahead for joy, and this is a happy new year.
And hope for the new year ahead. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Vancouver.
And lion dancers took over the streets in Victoria near the Chinese-Canadian Museum. That's just a preview there of what's to come. Next week, the city hosts its official Lunar New Year parade. Today, though, families were treated to Lai Si, or red pockets, from the Lucky Bunny in Fantan Alley. Well, today's celebrations were tinged with sadness, though. Just before the parade kicked off in Vancouver, the Prime Minister offered condolences to those affected by a mass shooting at a Lunar New Year celebration in California.
We, of course, will be there for whatever kind of support Canada can offer, but our hearts go out to all the communities and the families of the loved ones who were affected by this terrible incident around New Year's celebrations.
At least 10 people are dead after a late-night shooting outside Los Angeles. The suspected gunman is dead as well, apparently turning a gun on himself. 10 others were wounded, leaving the community reeling. And we will have much more on this story coming up later in the program. The shock of that news sat heavy with some locals here. Parade goers reflected on the violence and hate directed against the Asian community over the past several years. Our Susanna De Silva has that part of the story.
Linda So and her 2 young boys were able to get a prime seat. She says community today is even more important because of the rise of crimes BC saw during the pandemic targeting people of Asian descent.
It's not just Asians here, it's everybody coming together. So it's really great to have everybody just enjoy the event together. I mean, it does weigh on me because growing up, I was fortunate, I never had to go through that. So nowadays, I think about them when they grow up a lot.
It's been enough to make some think twice about their plans.
We have to be fearful to be dressing our kids up to celebrate. So it's definitely something that weighs on your mind.
Extra security and police were added to this year's event. Police presence bumped up even further after the first details of the California shootings emerged.
You'll see police everywhere, and they're there simply to reassure the community.
Organizers hoping this year's zodiac animal, the rabbit, will help change the conversation.
We want the rabbit can bring all the kindness and all the harmony to the community. Yeah, and also more people come back to the Chinatown.
And some already saw the spirit of the rabbit in the crowd.
It kind of looks like everybody likes every kind of one.
A spirit of kindness those here hope will last all year.
Happy New Year!
Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
To other news, the Coast Guard is working to contain an oil spill in English Bay. A pilot spotted the slick from the air yesterday around noon near Spanish Banks. Officials say the spill came from the container ship, the MV Europe. About 60 to 100 liters of fuel was released into the water. The Coast Guard has deployed a boom to limit the spread of the oil. The ship's owner has also hired a contractor to help with cleanup. Another person has died from an avalanche in this province, and officials say conditions were so dangerous they weren't able to retrieve the person's body. RCMP say 2 people were snowmobiling Saturday morning when the slide happened at Allen Oasis Recreation Park, just south of Valemount. The driver was uninjured and dug out the passenger, but they were unresponsive. Both individuals are from Grand Prairie, Alberta. Avalanche Canada has warned of an unusually weak snowpack this year. Well, it's been 2 years of disruptions for businesses along the construction zone for Vancouver's new Broadway subway station. And with the project now delayed until 2026, surviving businesses are uncertain about their future. As Janella Hamilton reports, they are calling on the province to step up and help before it's too late.
Okay, I see them there, jump into that.
Owning a store in Mount Pleasant has been Gene Ginden's dream since he was a child, but reality has come with more hassle than he had hoped. Portside Interiors is one of many businesses blocked by the maze of construction for Vancouver's Broadway subway.
The main struggle and main concern we're having with the project would be the complete removal of parking on Broadway.
At the Art of Loving, this store employee says they've had customers call and say they're going elsewhere.
A lot of customers seem a bit less willing to drive out since the construction. It's noisy and you have to take so many detours to avoid it. And so a lot of people do everything they can to avoid that.
And that noise is about to get even louder with the first tunnel boring machine set to arrive at Mount Pleasant Station this week.
There is drilling, there is hammering, there is jackhammering.
He says it's driving customers away, forcing some store owners to call it quits.
This was the location of the first subway to close. We've seen a bit more than a dozen businesses decamp, close up, move out of the neighborhood.
Wiles says for some businesses, revenues are down 75%. Heritage Asian Eatery on Broadway among the list of casualties. In a release, the owner blames it on the construction, saying, "We have tried everything, but cannot sustain these disruptions without some sort of compensation."
These businesses didn't anticipate this being 6 years. 6 years without any level of support from this government is astounding.
Ginden agrees the BC government needs to step up and help.
I believe that some compensation from tax relief. I know a lot of businesses that have been in business for a while have had a lot of loss and a lot of employee hardship, people putting up their homes.
When asked about financial relief, the province did not address compensation, but says by building the new SkyTrain underground, it results in far less above-ground disruption for businesses than the cut and cover approach used on the Canada Line, a 4-year project that saw 39 businesses go belly up at the time. Some owners sued to get compensation.
I've got unanswered emails to our local MLA, who happens to be the minister responsible for TransLink. We've seen nothing.
Support, he says, is vital to ensure businesses are still here when the project is complete. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Vancouver Canucks have fired head coach Bruce Boudreau after less than 2 seasons. Assistant coach Trent Cull was let go as well. The team announced the change-up in a news conference this morning.
I had a conversation with Bruce Boudreau this morning where I thanked him for what he did for the Canucks here over the year. Acknowledge his 1,000 games and 600 wins as a Vancouver Canuck. Trent Cull was let go as well. Those decisions are never easy. Great people, but at this point I felt it was needed.
Boudreau is one of the most successful regular season coaches in NHL history. He got off to a successful start with the Canucks after taking the helm mid-season in December of 2021. He became the 3rd coach in league history to win his first 7 games with a new team. Boudreau had previously served behind the bench for the Washington Capitals, Anaheim Ducks, and Minnesota Wild. He won the Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year in 2008. Rick Tocchet has been named the new head coach, and Tocchet told media Sunday he is excited for the opportunity.
You know, just the itch to get back in it. I've had a couple opportunities in the past, didn't take it, but this was something that I really looked hard at, and it excites me. You know, there's some good pieces here. Got some really elite players. Got some role players that I think that can do a bit more, and we can get them in the lineup playing a little bit more. I think that's going to help.
Tocchet says fixing the team's back end will be a priority, but change will not happen all at once. While they are fuzzy, they're tiny, and they can be a nuisance. I'm talking about mice. The province has recently banned a number of powerful poisons used to bait the rodents. But as Chad Poston explains, both animal advocates and pest control experts are questioning the ban's effectiveness.
At a hardware store in East Vancouver, Charlie Owakawa explains all the ways to kill a rat.
You got everything from live trapping and then some instant death, some sticky traps, as well as the good old-fashioned snap traps.
Customers are looking for alternatives for rodent and mice problems now that some poisons are banned.
You just gotta outsmart them and know where they're gonna be landing.
You gotta put them in the right place.
Yeah.
The poison inside bait boxes like these, used commonly by pest control companies, are facing strict new limits. Second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides, or SCARs, are now banned. It follows an 18-month pilot by the province. SCARs can kill other animals that eat poisoned rodents.
Unfortunately, I think most of the second-generation anticoagulants have all been painted with the same brush, and all of the user groups have been painted with that same brush.
The pest control industry says it's lost a powerful tool, one that can be used safely. They claim rodent activity in cities like Vancouver was up during the pilot ban period.
It could be a number of factors that are contributing to this, and I think it's too early to tell for sure if it was the temporary ban on the rodenticides that was causing this, or if this is something that is going to be systemic long-term because of the ban of this active ingredient that we were using.
Meanwhile, animal advocates say the ban won't reduce secondary poisonings. Deanna Pfeiffer has been campaigning for a widespread ban on rodenticides ever since she found a dead owl in her Saanich neighborhood in 2019. Even during the pilot ban, she's documented dead owls.
The animals continue to die, and I'm still receiving owls. It has not stopped. And it's important for people to realize the minister only took action on 3 active ingredients. There's 27 active ingredients that are registered in Canada, but that's hundreds and hundreds of products.
Experts hope the ban will push property owners to consider other options for dealing with pests rather than poison.
I think that's one of the problems, is that we treat rat management as a really simple solution. See a rat, lay down a trap. See a rat, put out some poison. Rat management is a very complex and complicated issue.
Byers hopes the debate will result in more research into best practices. Until then, keep your garbage tidy, plug mouse holes, and make your home as unattractive to rodents as possible. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Two naturalists have come across a group of rare old-growth trees in North Cowichan, estimated to be at least 250 years old.
Less than 1% of old growth that fall within the coastal Douglas fir remain. So to come across these, it's kind of like Sumatran tigers or Bengal tigers living in our midst.
He's overjoyed, to say the least. The 5 giants are growing in the North Cowichan Municipal Forest Reserve, which has temporarily halted logging until the end of January. The naturalists hope this discovery will lead to more protections for this part of the forest. A long legal suit surrounding residential schools came to an apparent conclusion yesterday, with Ottawa agreeing to a $2.8 billion settlement. The CBC's Deanna Sumanak-Johnson takes a look at the agreement and how it all started here in BC.
For former Chief Shane Godfredson, it's a moment to reflect and celebrate.
Very humbled and honored that, we come to this resolution.
A $2.8 billion settlement between the federal government and 325 First Nations. 10 years after he first launched a class action lawsuit seeking reparations for harms done by Canada's residential school system.
It just goes to show, too, as First Nations governments, when we work together, great things can happen.
The announcement is actually the second settlement in the Godfredson case. This one provides reparations for the loss of language and culture as a result of residential schools.
What it can do is help address the collective harm caused by Canada's past, a deeply colonial one.
A federal court still has to approve the new settlement. Once it does, an initial lump sum payment of $200,000 will be made to each of the 325 First Nations. $2.8 billion will be placed in a trust fund that will operate for 20 years. The fund will be governed by a board of 9 Indigenous directors. Still, the work ahead won't be easy, says this Indigenous languages expert.
At the moment, there is not one university in Canada in which a First Nations or an Indigenous language teacher can gain credentials and gain the knowledge they need to be able to teach. There needs to be a real organized way of being able to support the people with the proper kind of resources that are needed to do the work.
But for now, she says, this is mostly good news for Indigenous people, a view shared by Shane Godfredson.
Now it's our time to start turning, our way of life around, to be, learn our languages and our culture. So exciting times, definitely.
A chance to recover cultures once stripped away. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
A wave of fear through Asian American communities and a dark shadow over Lunar New Year festivities after a man opens fire at celebrations in a Los Angeles suburb. That story is next. The man accused of the latest deadly mass shooting in the U.S. is confirmed dead tonight. Authorities say he shot himself as police were approaching. And as Cameron McIntosh reports, at least 10 people are dead and another 10 wounded after gunfire rang out during Lunar New Year celebrations in a Los Angeles suburb.
The suspect surrounded in this van. Police waited, watched, and planned.
Our sheriff's SWAT team approached and cleared the van and determined the suspect sustained a self-inflicted gunshot wound and was pronounced dead at the scene.
Police say this man, 72-year-old Hu Can Tran, opened fire with an assault pistol in this dance studio, leaving 5 men and 5 women dead at the scene and more wounded. Less than 30 minutes later, police say he went to another dance hall where he was disarmed and fled in a white van. Hours later, police pulled him over south of Los Angeles.
During the search, several pieces of evidence were found inside the van linking the suspect to both locations in Monterey Park and Alhambra.
What was the motive for this shooter? Did he have a mental illness? Was he a domestic violence abuser? How did he get these guns? And was it through legal means or not?
Monterey Park is more than 65% Asian. This weekend, thousands were out celebrating the Lunar New Year.
I have confidence that we will get over this crisis because we must, and we will only do so if we do it together as a community.
This is the deadliest shooting in the U.S. since the Uvalde school massacre in Texas last May.
Yet another community has been torn apart by senseless gun violence. All of us in this room and in our country understand this violence must stop.
One familiar refrain after another.
Thoughts and prayers to all the families involved in this. It's a horrible incident for our county.
Beyond the immediate tragedy of so many lives lost, this is the 33rd mass shooting involving 4 or more people and the 5th mass killing in this country so far this year. It's only 3 weeks in. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Washington.
China is reporting almost 13,000 COVID deaths in the last week. That's in addition to the 60,000 reported last Saturday over the previous month. It's a dramatic revision in China's reporting, but may still be a low estimate. It doesn't include people who died at home, and there are reports of doctors being discouraged from entering COVID on death certificates. Researchers outside China say its COVID deaths this year could exceed 1 million. And you're looking at a live shot of the Georgia Viaduct on a pretty nice night. However, the rainfall is coming and starting to get quite wet before it gets nice and dry for midweek. I'll have your full forecast after the break. Let's talk about the weather now, shall we? Temperatures mild outside, still pretty cool, but yeah, pretty mild for this time of year. 4 degrees at YVR, 3 degrees if you're in West Van, 2 in Hope, and looking at 1 just hovering above the freezing mark there in Abbotsford. Thankfully, though, it was dry through the day. Tomorrow across the province, bit of a mixed bag, but we are seeing precipitation come down for almost everybody. Dease Lake looking at some flurries, -1. Prince Rupert expecting a good amount of rain, sitting at 6 degrees. Port Hardy looking at a 5. In Kelowna, you are going to see some snowfall, but only about 2 centimeters, -1. Prince George also looking at some rainfall, 3 degrees. And rainfall for us here on the south coast. 4 degrees will be our high tomorrow. Tuesday, more rain. It's mostly drizzly tomorrow, more rain on Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, though, look at that. Some nice yellow icons. Always nice to see those. Friday, expecting it to be cloudy. The weekend at this point looks like there might be some rain on the way, but not bad for midweek. Well, the ski slopes welcome winter sports enthusiasts of all shapes, sizes, and skill levels. But have you ever seen a skiing cat? Yes. Gary the cat has spent this winter season traveling across the Canadian Rockies with his owners and was enjoying the fresh pow at BC's Fernie Alpine Resort until yesterday. Gary wears a harness to keep him from falling, and when the winds pick up, he stays protected with his cat-sized goggles. Things I never thought I would say or see on this newscast. All right, that's it for us this Lunar New Year. I want to wish everyone who's celebrating 新年快乐, 新年快乐, 身体健康, wishing you good health, 身体健康. That's probably the most important thing of all things that we're wishing everyone this Lunar New Year. That's it for us this Sunday. I'll see you back here next weekend. Thanks for watching.